Alien pathogens could hitchhike to Earth and we're totally unprepared. This is what experts are warning us about, especially with all these space missions, bringing back samples of soil from the moon, from Mars, from comets, from asteroids. One of the asteroid space missions, the DART mission, will be bringing back asteroid samples in order to find out what they're made of. So how can we protect ourselves? Planetary biosecurity, applying invasion science to prevent biological contamination from space travel. As plans for space exploration and commercial use expand rapidly, biosecurity measures and risk assessments that inform them must adapt. Sophisticated protocols are required to prevent biological contamination of extraterrestrial environments from Earth and vice versa. Such protocols should be informed by research on biological invasions, human-assisted spread of organisms into novel environments, which has revealed their inter alia that one invasion risk is driven by the timing and frequency of introduction events, whose control requires the addressing and the least secure human activities associated with organismal transport. 2, invasions and their impacts which are difficult to predict because these phenomena are governed by context dependencies involving traits of the organism and the receiving environment. And 3, early detection and rapid response are crucial for preventing but undermining by taxonomic methods that fail to recognize what's alien versus what is native. Collaboration among astrobiologists, invasion biologists, and policymakers could greatly enhance planetary biosecurity protocols. Kindly support my Patreon account. The daily posts are 5 videos daily, and they are totally different from what I have on my YouTube channel. Thank you so much for your support and that you find all my content so interesting. You'll find the Patreon account details in the description box. Biological invasions, the human-assisted spread of organisms into novel environments, in which such species are most often termed alien, are a threat to the ecosystem, sustainability, and human well-being, of course. Owing to human activities, the rate of spread of alien microbes, invertebrates, vertebrates, and plants across the planet is unprecedentedly high with no sign of saturation. Even the remotest alpine, polar, and deep ocean regions of the Earth have been invaded. For example, recent evidence indicates that humans have inadvertently introduced drug-resistant and enteric bacteria into the Antarctic ecosystem, infecting seabirds and seals. Whereas many invasions appear to have had minor impacts, others have contributed to substantial biodiversity loss and detrimental effects on human health and livelihoods. Some have also caused pervasive and profound changes to ecosystem functioning. For example, nutrient cycling, productivity, carbon sequestration, and evolutionary trajectories. Owing to their massive costs to resolve sectors, for example, agriculture, forestry, aquaculture, apiculture, and human health, biological invasions are a global biosecurity issue requiring rigorous transboundary solutions. For example, the International Maritime Organization has implemented regulations and standards to control the discharge of ballast water from transoceanic shipping, which is the source of many ecological and socio-economical damaging marine invasions. And to address the science and management of invasive alien species, a highly productive interdisciplinary field has emerged over the past few decades. Invasion science, also known as invasion biology, but embracing non-biological disciplines. The study of the causes and consequences of the introduction of organisms beyond their natural evolutionary ranges, with emphasis on the role of humans in these introductions. Research in invasive science has produced novel insights for epidemiology, rapid evolution, the relationship between biodiversity and community stability, and the dynamics of predator-prey and parasite-host interactions, among many other concepts. These insights are being increasingly integrated into biosecurity frameworks. Now, what about biosecurity and the planetary scale? Space is emerging as a new frontier of biosecurity risk. Space exploration and use is currently undergoing revolution, led by New Space, a global industry of private and public companies seeking to profit from products or services. In addition to government-led space missions, the arrival of private companies like, for example, SpaceX, and new international players cause space to be accessible by a broader range of actors than was ever possible previously. Therefore, the risk profile associated with space activities has dramatically changed in ways that regulatory policy frameworks have not anticipated. Space biosecurity concerns the delivery of living organisms from Earth to extraterrestrial bodies, forward contamination, and conversely, Earth biodata coming into contact with organisms from extraterrestrial bodies in the context of a mission returning to Earth. At present, these are considered to be highly improbable events. For a mission to Mars, for example, the risk of survival and proliferation of introduced terrestrial organisms is thought to be low, and an even more negligible risk might be ascribed to the event in which a living organism from Mars is transported to our Earth, subsequently released, and colonizes its new environment. However, we suggest that these biological invasion scenarios are analogous to extreme natural or technological disasters, for example, major earthquakes, nuclear meltdowns, for example, that, although typically rare, have potential consequences that are unacceptable and therefore merit unique safeguards. The risk of accidental forward contamination of extraterrestrial environment was demonstrated recently when an Israeli lunar lander named Bereshit, belonging to a private organization, Space IL, crashed on the moon, Shahar and Greenbaum, 2020. It was carrying thousands of dormant tardigrades, invertebrate animals notorious for their ability to withstand harsh conditions such as extreme desiccation, freezing temperatures, and high doses of ionizing radiation. Of course, missions to Mars would be subject to more stringent sterilization measures, but the lunar crash illustrated the non-negligible risk of technological failure and therefore the need for disaster preparedness against biological spills. The risks of back and forward contamination associated with future missions may be higher and more diverse than previously estimated. Indeed, an emerging view is that it's nearly impossible to explore new planets without carrying or delivering microbes. Various organisms, some of them extramophilic, are found to exhibit tolerance to conditions necessary for space travel. For example, some bacteria can grow and evolve under microgravity, and an extensive list of microbes can survive extreme cold, radiation, and desiccation. Chepsov and colleagues in 2017 demonstrated that certain bacteria, for example Arthrobacter from ancient Arctic permafrost, can survive exposure to gamma radiation, 100 kilograys at low temperature, minus 50 degrees Celsius, low atmospheric pressure at 1 torr, and desiccation, environmental conditions similar to Martian permafrost. Furthermore, recent evidence suggests that certain subsurface regions of Mars could support high microbial cell densities, and such areas of Mars and other extraterrestrial planets and moons deemed potentially habitable would be targeted for missions dedicated to searching for extant life, thereby amplifying the risk of forward and backward contamination. Insights for science of biological invasion, hard lesson learned. Given the enormous foundation of research in the science and management of invasive species, we contend that greater collaboration between invasive biologists and astrobiologists would enhance existing international protocols for planetary biosecurity, both for Earth and for extraterrestrial bodies that could contain life. Insular systems are most vulnerable to invasion. A major lesson from invasive science is that ecosystems that have evolved in isolation are exceptionally vulnerable to disruption by introducing alien organisms. For insular systems like islands, lakes, and remote habitats, which typically contain endemic species and unique phylogenetic lineages, the consequences of invasion often have been catastrophic, causing cascading ecological effects and extinctions. The heightened sensitivity of insular biota is attributable primarily to the lack of adaptations for coexisting with a broad suite of alien life forms. This sensitivity justifies special precautions to protect insular biota against invasion, even when such events are considered to be extremely improbable. And in this context, planets and moons that are deemed potentially capable of supporting life should be treated as high-risk insular systems. Now, impacts of invasion are extremely difficult to forecast. Although much progress has been made in understanding invader impacts, a major knowledge gap in the risk assessment of invasive species is the role of special traits, combinations of traits, and trait-environment interactions in determining impact, particularly at the ecosystem level. The gap is greater for introduced, non-pathogenic microbial organisms for which the links between traits and influence on ecosystem function are not well elucidated. Nevertheless, evidence shows that introduced microbes can dramatically alter biotic communities and produce substantial ecosystem change over time. The evolutionary dynamics of invaders can also confound prediction. Introduced microbial organisms can undergo rapid genetic changes through environmental selection or through hybridization with compatible strains that result in enhanced invasiveness or novel pathogenic behavior. Early detection and rapid response are crucial, of course, for the prevention. Now, planetary protection must keep up with scientific advances. Materials from Mars, for example, returning missions will be subjected to strict contamination biohazard protocols, although samples returning from Mars moons are currently designated as unrestricted Earth return and can therefore be managed in a standard laboratory without quarantine, according to the National Academy of Sciences. So that, to me, is totally unacceptable. If you bring back not something from Mars moons like Phobos or Deimos, you don't have to quarantine it. That is ridiculous. Anyway, this is from academic bioscience, and I'll leave a link below for you for this. Please leave your comments about this. It's having to do with planetary biosecurity of invasive extraterrestrial elements. Thank you for your support.